Hello and welcome back to Star Citizen with the Tough Eggs. In today's video I am going to be reviewing a classic ship from Star Citizen's early beginnings, much loved and revered Constellation. The Connie is rather old-fashioned when compared to the more modern multi-role ships like the Mercury Star and Millennium Falcon ripoff, but she does have some more upcoming changes that may make it a little more fun to use. I'm also hoping that the Swiss cheese style forward shields get fixed with the pending rework, and if these do get fixed, then we may have a pretty spectacular gunboat on our hands. At nearly 63 meters long and 27 meters wide, she's a big ship, especially for a single player, but the Connie definitely comes packing, sporting 4 size 4 gimbaled Rhino repeaters and 52 missiles. That's the same missile payload as nearly 7 Sabres. Moving along this rather large gunship, you can see the 4 large main thrusters at the rear. Unfortunately, these are connected to the hull by some fairly flimsy struts, meaning they can be blown off quite easily when impacted. Compounding this issue further, when one engine goes you lose 25% of your thrust but also 25% of your firepower, so really best advice, don't lose an engine at all and stay out of turning fights. You don't want getting shot in the rear at all. Moving on, here we can see the lower gimbaled size 4 Rhino repeater. Under the main hull we can see the cargo elevator, capable of holding 96 SCUs of cargo space, or an Ursa rover, though it is a very tight squeeze. So that's about 25% more cargo capacity than a standard freelancer. One thing to note is the cargo capacity on the Constellation is actually worse than the Freelancer Max, and the Freelancer is half the size of a Connie. Though the Constellation Taurus, which is the cargo carrying version of the Constellation, hasn't released yet, and that may carry a substantial amount more. Further forward of the cargo entrance we have the main crew elevator and the lower turret. So the main crew elevator is the main entry point to the ship, towards the front of the vessel. This is airtight, which is quite useful in a fight. So we've got the lower turret there, completely covered, one of the few ships in the game where its turrets, when put away, are sealed up. And then we have the main cockpit of the ship. Note the ridiculous amount of struts covering the field of view. Even though it's a much older design, I really do think the Connie has some good looks, though the whole shape is really bringing it down in terms of functionality with the current state of the game. Now we've had a brief look of the exterior, let's move inside the ship and carry on the interior tour. So, upon entering the ship we are met by the main crew quarters. Inside we have 4 bunks, each acting as an escape pod, similar to the Freelancer. We also have access to multiple storage lockers, a crew washroom and a cooking station and table, though the table's a bit glitched at the moment, it doesn't like actually. It's kind of rising. So you can see I'm just opening up the lockers here, and you can tell it's an older Star Citizen design just by the kind of basic interior. It's not bespoke, it's not meshed into the hull very well, it is kind of just rectangles placed inside. Note there's no weapon rack, so there's just storage lockers, and the interior lighting is quite dull also, so sometimes you might have to put your torch on. Passing the first set of airtight doors, we enter the main bridge and receive some serious Star Trek vibes, which I really appreciate. We have a twin turret elevator. These lead to both the top and bottom turret. There are some clipping issues though with the animation, and for the love of God, don't touch your keyboard when leaving the turret as you'll just get stuck. Similar to how you can get stuck in the Prospector's cockpit if you press your keyboard when you're doing the animation. So I would advise just don't press anything. Wait till you've fully moved, because there's one last step of the animation where you think it's complete but then you take an extra step forward, and if you skip that you kind of get stuck in the elevator itself. So here we are in the main turret. It's going to show you the depression, elevation and the firing arcs. So you can see 90 degrees of gun elevation, some good gun depression, though there is a blind spot towards the rear of the ship where you can't fire. So if a fighter gets close and right behind you, there's nothing you can do about it. And here we are, I'm just going to show you that animation here. So don't press anything. Because I'm out of the chair now, but there's one step there at the end, so you think you're out, but then you're not. Just make sure you let the animation run its course before you do anything else. Now, moving on to the bridge, we have 3 main stations, all with a view outside and each with individual MFDs. The captain/pilot position holds the main control of the vessel, along with 7 multifunction displays and a radar, though the radar can clip in and out sometimes, so you might have to exit and then re-enter the ship to get the radar pop back up, which can be annoying in combat, but it's an alpha, just quirks of the game. The main pilot has control of all of the ship's functions bar the twin turrets, giving the Connie's pilot great DPS in comparison to some ships like the Mercury Star Runner. And also you've got a pretty great field of view, however the struts do kind of get in the way occasionally, but you get used to it and you can mitigate the problems caused by these. So we're now going to head to the 3rd compartment of the ship, which is also the largest, and that is the cargo hold. It definitely isn't functional compared to newer ships in the game, but it definitely looks cool. Though I would really appreciate a ramp instead of an elevator, as it just makes loading and unloading that much more easy, especially on uneven terrain where the ramp may not want to go all the way down. So here we are, just lowering the ramp, and I'm going to raise it again just to show you what it looks like from the interior perspective. As you can see, the lower ramp is a big chunk of your hull, so that gets damaged, you're depressurizing pretty quickly. Here are the top missile racks, they look pretty sick on the inside of the ship. We also have 2 docking collars on the left and right side of the ship. So if you think about it, there's 3 ways in to be boarded in the rear of the Constellation. In the 3rd compartment we also have access to the ship's components. Though this isn't important now, it may cause issues down the line as the crew needs to travel 50 meters past all entry points to make repairs to the ship, which could cause issues in the future. In the last door we have arguably the most interesting location on the Constellation. This is the docking port of the snub fighter. In 3.13 we will be able to launch and deploy a Kruger Merlin or Archimedes from this location, opening up a lot more gameplay opportunities. A second player will be able to launch the vessel to support in a dogfight or take the snub fighter to scout ahead of the Connie. It won't put up the same fight as a dedicated fighter aircraft, but it'll surely feel cool to use. Now that we've fully explored the Connie, exterior and interior, examined her pros and some of her cons, concluded that she may need a bit of a rework, let's jump over to Urkel.games and explore a potential build that could be quite interesting in the patches coming up. Now we're on Urkel.games, I'm going to walk through a potential stealth build with the Constellation, providing great firepower, but also allowing the ship to run silently. So if you're wanting to pass through an area unnoticed or sneak up on some land-based targets, especially with the new cave missions coming in the next patch. So the first thing we need to do when talking stealth is to reduce our EM signature. The largest draw for EM are shields and power units. So for shields, I'm going to select the Umbra Stealth Shield in the first slot. This will provide a quicker regen and a low EM rating. And then to give a boost to the HP pool, I'm going to add the Sucheron Military Grade Shield. Now these are quite difficult to come by. You need to get a Prowler or a Defender in order to get any and then unequip them from those ships and re-equip them in your other ones. But these do provide the added bonus of being a large hit point shield and also giving you 100% ballistic protection, and that's especially useful coming against PvE bounties with a lot of them shooting scatter guns or Gatling guns at you. So it really does help keep you in the fight that bit longer. So, power supplies. We're going to run 2 of the tried and tested Eclipse Stealth power plants. These provide the lowest EM and good power output, more than enough for this build. Moving on to the coolers and quantum drive, I have added the XL1 to my build. The stock drive is nothing short of horrendous on the Constellation, though the Jaeger and Crossfield are good alternatives if you want a cheaper drive with a little bit slower travel time. So the coolers you can leave stock, though I did have a Nightfall running spare in my inventory, so I've just added that for a bit quicker instant cooling regeneration and responsiveness. So weapons, the Connie comes with 4 repeaters stock. These are solid CF447 size 4 Rhino gimbaled repeaters. Fully overclocked, they put out nearly 4,000 DPS, which is insanely good. That's enough to chunk down most ships straight away within a few bursts. Now you can fit 2 fixed size 5 weapon points on this ship in the top mounts, though I wouldn't recommend it. It's a quite unmaneuverable ship, and you don't want to lose that gimbal's responsiveness, giving that larger field of fire. If you could run all size 5 gimbals, I would maybe change them up, just giving you that boost to front-on DPS, but you can't at the moment, so I'll just leave them purely gimbaled. Now, if you want a more Alpha Strike type of loadout, you can run 4 M6As, which give you around 3,000 alpha damage per hit, which is an insane amount of firepower. I have also tried the Revenants on this to try and get that Expanse vibe, but the Revenants have a bit of a problem at the moment when if they're overclocked, they will constantly fire until they overheat, so they're kind of not worth using, because you just burn for ammunition even though you don't want to. So when it comes to missiles, the Constellation has plenty. It has 52 missile points altogether. I would recommend running 24 Rattler 2s in the size 2 slots, and then leaving the rest as Marksman 1s. So let's just change that up now. There we go, so those are our Rattler 2s all in place. So we're now running 66 million missile damage, 4,000 base DPS when the weapons are overclocked. And if we overclock the shield generators and the power supplies, we're running 51k shields, 1100, nearly 1200 hit points a second, and a full charge in 44 seconds, 4,000 DPS, and a lot of missile damage. The manned turrets, I would leave them as they are. If you're not playing with friends, you're not going to use them anyway, so just leave them as they are. They'll be unpowered, so they're not going to draw any EM. In base, with this loadout, we're rocking 16,808 EM rating, which is incredibly good for a ship of this size. But we can certainly improve on this. So if we take off the overclock on all of our components, so base, we're running 12,300 when you just start up the ship. That's medium fighter level of EM rating, but there's a few more tricks you can do to really get this number down. Firstly, cut power to your shields, and then you're only running 7,000 on the EM rating. That's the same as a Prowler. And then if you wanted to go that bit much further and really run silent, you can run 883 EM rating if you cut all power to your weapons and shields. So if you just want to coast by and be unnoticed, you can really do it. And I really do believe that in the future, sort of running dark is certainly something I can see many experienced smugglers and criminals doing when the map is a lot bigger, the universe is a lot bigger, and there's more to do when you're trying to slip past those patrols. So that is on the EM rating I'm showing. The IR rating will be higher and will give your position away, but you can't really detect that on Urkel. Anyway, this is my recommended loadout. I'm going to show you me doing a few bounty hunting missions in this, and we'll see how good it can perform. Okay, so here we are back in the universe, testing out this build. I'm going to quickly run through 2 bounties, calculate how long it's taken me to do those, and then we can work out how much money we could potentially make in an hour of bounty hunting grinding. So let's jump over to the first target. The Connie does look stunning coming through the quantum jump animation. And I'm slowly coming to understand the advanced camera operations, so that's helpful. Moving in, it looks like we're going to have 2 targets in this first spot. So you can see my EM rating is quite low, but my infrared is around 18 to 20,000. So we can't go full south of the Constellation, but we can certainly reduce it, getting detected around 7 kilometers away from a target, which is pretty good going because I'm spotting them before they're spotting me for the most part. So we've got two targets, 1 Valkyrie and I believe 1 Harbinger. So let's start raking the Valkyrie from front. So we're accelerating to position and then we're getting in range, decelerating and advancing in the opposite direction. Able to take him out pretty quickly there. Looks like the Hurricane's a bit closer to what you kind of want to avoid in the Constellation. situation, especially against a hurricane with scatter guns, because those front shield holes, even though I'm running super runs which give me 100% ballistic protection, the shields don't actually cover the entire front of the ship, so you can sometimes get one banged by a shotgun round to the face, which is kind of annoying. But we survived, took minimal damage, well, took no damage. We're going to move on to the third spot of this bounty. Like in the freelance video, I'm picking my spots prior to actually engaging targets. That XL1 quantum drive really doing some work here. Having that fast quantum travel time really does increase the amount of bounces you can do in a certain amount of time. You might not think it does, but shaving off those extra few seconds between jumps, especially on cooldowns, it really can make up. You can sometimes end up getting an extra VRHT bounty in there just because you save so much time on the quantum travel. Though the Crossfield and Jaeger are pretty good alternatives, the difference between them all isn't that great, but the price margin is about 50,000 UEC, so if you're tight on cash, definitely go for a Crossfield or a Jaeger instead. Jumping into the third target here, it's not even been 3 minutes. Spawned a bit further away, so I'm going to accelerate a bit faster, just to close that distance. No point in lingering around. The Connie is really designed for drive-bys, and look at that. Skimming through this asteroid belt. So we're in range with a target lock. It's a hurricane, so I can do it in about 2 bursts of fire. I say 2, yeah, bang on, 2 bursts, done. Now I haven't selected a bounty for my follow-up here, as I'm a bit of an idiot, so I'm going to accelerate away, put cruise control on, get out of danger, though the Constellation doesn't have an amazingly fast top speed, under 1 kilometer a second, which means that the fighters will catch up with me, and it looks like they have, so I'm going to flip and burn. If you've watched The Expanse, you're going to keep travelling in that direction, decouple, and then fire from behind. So I'm constantly keeping my max shield facing towards the enemy, travelling in a direction, and attacking the targets behind me. So we're going for the Valkyrie first, the tanky boy. Getting a bit close to comfort, but he's gone. And it's a hurricane, this is a 2-burst job. Now there's a bit of desync going on here, so I can't get auto tracking perfectly fine, but I can just fire fixed as well. And there we go, target destroyed. Nothing like a bit of extra money. So let's go and select a new bounty. Just slow down a minute. Okay, that's a HRT, let's take that. So that's 1 VHRT and 1 HRT. These guys are a bit spread out. A bit unfortunate, I do like it when there's 2 in one position, it just makes it a lot quicker, but we'll make do. Getting myself lost a second here because someone else has put a quantum beacon down. Either actually needs help or he's baiting someone in for a PvP fight. Who knows? To be honest, helping other players out at the moment isn't really a profitable thing. So until people start offering good amount of money for doing things, people just won't do it. Especially if someone's mining or bounty hunting and making hundreds of thousands of UEC. It's like an escort. I'd love to be an escort for miners or something in the PTU when it comes big, or for traders, but the money isn't there at the moment, especially in the current state of the game. Looks like this bounty's a bit slower to load in. 3 kilometers from the target. Let's see where he pops in. There we go, top left. So we're gonna roll. It's just a vanguard, not really a threat at all, to be honest. He might be able to engage me with size 5, but it won't be doing enough damage to take my shields down, and I'll be killing him before he gets in range of any of his other guns. So there we go, 5.5 clicks out, engaging. But I think if they're closing on you, it takes about 4 seconds for your shots to reach, so you can shoot 4 seconds earlier than you think you can for the most part, as they're going to be in range of the shots when they get there. Something to bear in mind, you can lead targets a little bit earlier than you think. location. It's pretty fortunate that one was in the same area I was already in. There we go. We're crossing these 100,000 kilometer distances pretty quickly. I do frequently use my Sabre or F7C for bounty hunting, and it's just a bit slower. Plus, sometimes you want to just be in something a bit bigger. Being an idiot, it's definitely on the top right. I don't know why I'm even thinking it's around. Yeah, my radar's missing, that's why. Okay, and now I understand why I'm struggling. I'm looking for the markers, but my radar's missing at the bottom, so I'm going to have to climb out of my seat at some point and then climb back in. Just try and get that to reload. There's a bit of an issue going on at the moment in Star Citizen where radars don't load, and they are, in bigger ships at least, super useful. So I'm going to jump to this position, and by the time I get there and the target's in range, I would have been able to use the animation of getting in and getting out on the ship. So let's just set the next target if we can. There we go. Being a bit finicky with the positions here. There we go. Skyline is honestly the bane of my life in Star Citizen. Now, if it doesn't want to load, or it doesn't want to select the correct position. Looks like I'm also finicking around the map with the Valkyrie managed to jump on me. See a bit of a who's got the better shield type of situation. It's definitely me. Pouring that firepower onto him. There he goes. As I didn't get out of my seat then, I'm going to do it now because the lack of radar is getting to me. So let's just do that real quick. I say real quick, it's a slower animation, but hopefully it works. So I've got out, get it back in. There we go. Has the radar reappeared? Who knows? It has in fact reappeared. Amazing, I know where I'm going now. So last bounty to kill, it's been 9 minutes so far. Could probably do this in less than 10. And then we can figure out how much we've made, times that by 6, and that'll get us an average of how much we can make an hour. Granted, this isn't optimum running. There's a lot of people running bounties lately in Star Citizen, so people know it's profitable. So sometimes you'll come into an area and there'll be no bounties available because someone's just taken all of them. But I'm not that mean. I do one at a time. Unless I know there's someone scalping all of them, then I'll maybe try and pick up a few at the same time. But if you notice there's bounties missing, just switch server, really, to be honest, or go somewhere else. Simple as that. Same as again. Same as before, rinse and repeat. Just stay at range. Roll back. This Valkyrie's not even coming range on me yet. So I just took out that gunship without him even getting in range to put a shot out on me. So let's just pick an OM destination and run away. So that was about 10 minutes and 10 seconds. I'll go 10 minutes, round it to 10 minutes. And we'll figure out how much we've made. So in those 10 minutes of bounty hunting, we completed one VHRT, which gave me 73,200 UEC, one HRT, which was 37,400 UEC, the call to arms bonuses were around 6,000, and the total equaled 126,600 UEC in 10 minutes. So we'll take that 126,600 and multiply it by 6, which gives us 759,600 UEC an hour, potentially, if we were doing those two bounties on repeat over and over again. Let's knock that down to about 700k, plus minus you don't get those good bounties, but that's an insane amount of money earned in 1 hour. Now, to conclude, would I recommend the Constellation in its current state? And honestly, I would. It's arguably the largest ship that a single individual can fly whilst keeping most of its primary functions operational. It definitely needs a rework. The shields will hopefully be fixed in patch 3.13, though I do believe the weapon placement needs adjusting too. If we can add those further size 5 mounts, then the Connie will have a colossal amount of forward firepower. Additionally to this, I'd like to see the missile racks altered so the ship can carry longer ranged size 3 missiles instead of the size 2 and 1s. If you have a group of friends and you play them continuously, buy an MSR, but for a lone player, the Connie can be very versatile and hopefully in the future she'll just get better and better. Thank you for watching guys, I hope this video has been both informative and useful. As always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.